Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Passive Investing Show. I'm your host, 𝗖𝗣𝗶 Benesocky, and I'm joined by my co-host, 𝗖𝗣𝗶 Biniaz. We have another incredible show for you today. Please like and subscribe as it helps us build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you great content and expert guest speakers. Our mission is to empower investors to earn passive income through real estate investing. Now, today we're joined by Jill Sinclair. A little bit about Jill. Jill Sinclair changes lives, okay? As an international speaker, an author, business coach, podcast host, mentor, and TV personality, she helps people to overcome their success blockers. Jill is also a strong advocate for young people and has created a free youth-focused mentorship program called Head Start Mentoring. August and I believe this interview with Jill is going to bring great value to both active and passive investors looking to scale their personal and company growth. So welcome, Jill. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Before the cameras started rolling, we've already had a brilliant conversation, so I cannot wait to get into the meat of it.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Jill, you know, as I mentioned just a moment ago, you're an author, an executive coach, a speaker, but you got your start in real estate. So if you could please talk to us about your start in real estate and tell us about your background in business, please.
Yes, I got my start in real estate back in 2007, 2008. So it wasn't really that long ago, but yet it was a lifetime ago. And I always thought I wanted to become a realtor because, I mean, how fun is it going to be to show homes to people and be that, you know, first-time home buyers, investors, all that. So I got into it with my eyes wide open. And then I realized, holy crap, this is very different than what I thought it was going to be. And I very organically got into consulting other people because I got some really great contracts from the very beginning. And I started knowing that I got to start making connections. Like if it's to be, it's up to me. And I continue to just put myself out there. So in the local paper, I was out in the Valley in Vancouver area, it's called Langley. And I kept on getting in the paper. I kept on getting on television. I kept on getting on radio. And people were saying, Jill, how are you doing this? And you're rocking it in sales. And I very organically got into coaching and consulting, as we talked about at the time. And I realized this is my genius. This is what I'm really great at. And this is where my heart is at. And I did really, really well in real estate. And I'm like, you know what? No, this is just not for me. And so it took me a while to really dive into the business consulting and coaching, because again, you know, we stop ourselves from our success often. But I just always come back to it. And I'm like, wow, this is just such an honor to be able to do what I do and be very effective with it. So it's having the real estate background is awesome, because real estate investment advisors, real estate investors as well, you look at that and you have to have a very similar mindset. And it's interesting, my first speaking tour that I ever did, tour in Vancouver, I brought Ryan Serhant in from $1 Million Listing New York, because I thought if I'm going to go big, I'm going to go big. So for me to keynote beside him, and he's got billions of dollars in sales in his real estate, I thought, you know what, this is going to elevate my game and bring it to the people, because they need to understand, how do we build wealth in real estate? So it's still my passion. I'm still do a little bit of work with some realtors here and there and speak at real estate conventions. So it's very exciting to be a part of that.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. We're really familiar with transitioning from, you know, one career into the next, because we both actually left our jobs to take on CPI Capital that we co-founded together. But I wanted to kind of dive more into, talk to us about the anxiety or the lack of that exists when you did look to make that transition into it.
Well, oh my heavens, you're going to get a whole bunch right now, because why I started to transition from that, get into it full time to coaching. I went through a divorce and bankruptcy. And I went, holy shit balls, I got to change everything. So I was speaking with 𝗖𝗣𝗶 last week, who is an incredible woman who also should be on your show, by the way. And we talked about, Jill, your superpower is resiliency. Your superpower is optimism and resiliency. Because I remember standing in that apartment. It was an apartment at the time. It was rented. I had no furniture. I had no bed. I was literally sleeping on the floor. And I thought, Jill, you've gotten yourself into this situation. How are you going to get yourself out of it? Right. So for me, the anxiety was there, because I'm like, where am I getting my money? Right. Where am I getting to live on? Because I just basically left a relationship, and it just wasn't a good space for me. So I had to rebuild. And this was only 2011. So for me, getting into real estate and then, you know, bouncing around and going, you know, it's not my jam. It's not what fills me up. So I think, you know, God was saying, smack me on the head, Jill, refocus to what you want to do. Because I was dabbling in coaching, dabbling in this. And so the anxiety literally was real because I was going through those other things at the same time. But again, when you go back to your passion and what you're put on the earth for, and know that I've got so much more value to give and my passion is truly, truly there, then the anxiety truly just starts to melt away. And then you've got to trust the universe. You truly have to trust the universe because it's in the energy that goes out there. What am I going to focus on? Not my plan B. I'm going to focus on my plan A, because plan B is a distraction from your plan A. So for me, a big proponent of that is plan A is my only plan.
Very cool.
Yep.
And when sometimes in those moments when you hit rock bottom, that's the time where you start reinventing yourself, like you just mentioned, right? And you kind of fear into your superpower, and you take that and you just go full force. So really cool.
Yeah. And when you talk about superpower, I've in the brief research I've done about you, I would say your superpower, aside from resilience, it's also, your confidence. And that's what we've definitely noticed about you. So talking about confidence, maybe we can kind of get on to our next question here.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to discuss, this is kind of random, but I wanted to discuss cold calling, because in real estate, this is a strategy that's used by some brokers. But how do you, Jill Sinclair, utilize this? Like, maybe you can give our viewers a crash course on some cold calling tips.
I am literally the cold call queen. I am just, I have no fear when it comes to that. And I was talking about, confidence. Confidence is simply the willingness to try. Like, I put my hand up, I'm like, pick me. I dial for dollars. And so for me, what I have to understand in cold calling, because I still do it, like I literally still do it.
Oh, nice.
And for cold calling, I have to understand and believe so deeply in my value that I have to give to that person that's on the other end. I must believe that, because if I don't, I've got nothing to give, and it's going to come out in my voice. So in the middle of COVID, I don't know if you know this part, in the middle of COVID, I thought, oh my God, like my speaking career halted, everything stopped, with yours as well. I'm sure you had some disruptions. And I thought, holy crap, what am I going to do now? I went to speak at the University of British Columbia, which is our largest university here. And the young people came up to me afterwards saying, like, oh my God, Jill, you talk to us like no one else does. No holds barred, you bring us love, the kick in the pants. And where can we get more of you? And as I drove home that night, I realized that I need to do something bigger than myself. So I came up with this contest in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. And it was called Head Start with Jill. Now, here's where the cold call is coming into play here. I thought, okay, well, I need to get like rent or a condo for a year, a car, a business coach, which would be me, fitness trainer, a wardrobe, all these things, like $100,000 worth of prizes, again, in the middle of the pandemic. And people laughed at me. They're like, oh, Jill, really, this is really going to happen. I'm like, I'm so damn committed to this. Watch me. So literally, I dialed for dollars, and I'm like, hi, I'm Jill Sinclair, and I'm doing this initiative for our young people. I made no money off of it whatsoever. All the money went in, $100,000 in the middle of COVID, and they didn't get anything. Like, here's my book for $100,000. They just got goodwill from this. And I got Vincenzo Guzzo from the Dragon's Den. I didn't know him from Adam. I reached out to him. Hi, I'm Jill Sinclair. I'm doing this. Would you be a part on the judges panel? So with my cold calling, I believe so strongly in what I had to offer that I had no fear doing that. Now, my first sponsor that I got on board, I contacted him 18 times. Some people say, oh, Jill, let it go after 3, but no. When I got introduced to this guy, so he didn't respond to 3 emails after that, but then he finally responded. I got his phone number. So of course I phoned him, he didn't answer, left him a voicemail, left him a text. Literally, it took me 18 full times, because he said in our first conversation, he was very interested. So I took that bone and I held on to it, and literally follow-up takes you 30 seconds. So it wasn't a lot of my time. I'm like, you know what? He said yes, and I'm going to keep on following with everyone else, but he's mine. He's mine. So we met, and we actually could still meet in Vancouver here. We met, and I said, okay, so how much you're going to commit to, this much or this much? And so he committed. He said, well, why don't you just send the contract to my assistant? And I said, you mean this contract? So I put it in front of him. I brought my pen, of course, my signing pen, and I put it in front, and he starts laughing. He says, only you, Jill Sinclair. And then he says, what about payment? And I said, I have my square right here. He's like, you just think of everything. I'm like, I'm here to close you. Don't you want to do business with someone like me who understands how to do that? And then after that, he hired me to do some sales training for him, right?
Oh,
because again, what happens when they say yes? And the biggest thing, again, is having that confidence that you're just going to try, you're going to bring value. If you don't believe in the value, no one else will either.
Amazing. Amazing.
Incredible.
All right. So we're
Good
going to
for you.
switch the conversation here. But again, it's somewhat related to confidence, but we're going to switch the
Yeah.
conversation here a bit. And, I'll go ahead and initiate this question.
Please.
We are somewhat trekking on, we have to be, trek very carefully here because,
Right.
this subject could be sensitive. So I want to kind of discuss about women in leadership positions and women entrepreneurs. And I want to talk about obviously the ratio that exists. For example, when you're talking about real estate private equity firm, real estate investment firms, only 3% of real estate investment firms have a woman in leadership role.
Yeah.
Ava is our CEO. So and I think she can speak of this as well. Is she's noticed that there is definitely an imbalance.
Absolutely, there's an imbalance. Yeah.
And at times it's even unusual when we're on meetings and Ava is the only woman.
I speak on panels and it's pretty much all men.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
I hear you. I live that reality myself.
And I want to touch on it. And personally, myself, I grew up in a home with 3 women. It was my mom as a single mom with my 2 sisters. They were very strong lionesses, very strong women. And so my perspective of it was that, hey, you got to basically be confident, get what you want, and be very confident. But then when I came, as a grown up, when I was in the world, and I tried to use the same mentality, it came across harsh at times. I remember at the beginning of our partnership, Ava was booked to go and speak on some platforms, and she's like, "Hey, all these guys have billions of dollars of assets under management, and I'm showing up here with we just closed on our first deal." So and I'm like, "Come on, you got this. You got to go in there." But at times that could come across a bit harsh and difficult. So I want to talk to you about obviously, again, in some research we did with you, majority of your clients are men. But then we also kind of overheard that when you talk to your female clients, you're very laconic, you're very direct. That you say, hey, listen, nobody else is going to, do this for you. You need to go and get it yourself. Talk to us about how to be straightforward with your clients, but at the same time, not to lose a client because you might come across as as too harsh. Because a lot of times when you're talking about women in position of power or women in business, a lot of time people are saying, oh, this could be associated to woman's DNA. They might be naturally not built to be in leadership positions, or it might be because women have been marginalized by men so long, and that's why they're not there. Exactly.
Come on now. Yeah.
Or in some cases, they might maybe not fighting for what they want as hard as sometimes men do. So is it a combination of all of those things? And how do you go about dealing with women when you are coaching, when it comes to this topic of women entrepreneurs, women in business, women in leadership roles?
That question has been asked of me multiple times, especially by young women's groups that I speak to. And my first thing to say to them is step the fuck up, period. And that's always a mic drop moment. People are like, oh, she's so offensive. No, you know what offends me? People who rape others and child molest, that offends me, right? So getting that out of the way. When I say that, it shouldn't always be upon us female identifying humans to have to try 10 times as much to get the same results as a man who tries once. And it's just a fact that we have to do this. So when you step up and live your life and step into that willingness to try confidence that I talked about earlier, is you cease being a pawn of men and their inequality conversations. It takes us to consistently stand up and say, no, I'm not okay with that language. I had one of my clients one time very erroneously introduce me, and he learned his ways, and we've since parted ways too. But he said, Jill, it's just like me, except without the penis. Are you kidding me? You just said that. You just said that. Actually, I will outsell you, outcoach you, outmaneuver you. You want to step aside, son? So for me, again, this and it was supposed to be all a joke, but I'm like, that's not funny. That's not funny at all. Understanding that, when I'm contacting people and someone says, Jill, you're aggressive, I'm like, awesome, thank you. Right? I love it. And they're taken aback because they think, well, shouldn't you be offended? And I just go with it, right? And then it changes their behavior, changes their mindset. And it's interesting because I am who I am and I embrace every bit of it. I am one of the kindest human beings I know, and I will give literally my shirt off my back. And I also stand up for what's right. And it's interesting because I had one of young guys that was helping me with that contest, volunteering, and the contest I did for the youth in BC. And he said, Jill, you swear a lot. Maybe you should tone it down. I said, excuse me? I said, he says, well, you swear just like Gary Vee. And I said, and you like Gary Vee. So here's where the inequality is coming in. And I said, how dare you suggest that I should change my behavior because I'm a female? How dare you? I said, I want you to reconsider this. First of all, I'm the only one getting the sponsors for this free contest. So what right do you have to try to judge me? And it was a learn. I mean, I was lighthearted with it, but like letting it come across like, are you kidding me? You just tried to tell me how to behave, not on my watch, right? So he learned that. He's like, oh my God, you're right. Like, that is horrible. I just tried to tell you not to swear, but yet Gary Vee does, and I love him. So I have to change my mindset. I said, yes, you do. So it's a consistent job that we as females, and I'm going to invite you, August, to also take that upon you to stand up when men and sometimes women say these things that detract from our humanity, to say that, oh, Jill, you got balls. Like I volunteer mentor a bunch, and there happen to be young guys between the ages of 17 to 27. And I volunteer mentor them. I've been doing that for years now. And they've since learned, but I remember when I told them about some things that I've done, they're like, you got balls. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? That was a simple question. What do you mean by that? And they're like, well, I said, give me some descriptives. Well, you're so strong and you're so resilient and you've got no fear. I said, please, next time you give me a compliment, please say that instead. So they've learned in a very caring and loving way. I'm changing everyone that's in my peripheral here and changing that behavior because I don't, like, what do you mean by that? Like, stop giving descriptors. I'll tell you what, it's also a disservice to men to, that they can't show emotion or they can't cry or they can't be sensitive. Let's call that what it is. Thank you for your kindness. I said to one of my mentees the other day, thank you so much for your kindness. That was awesome. And he said, Jill, oh my God, that meant so much to me that you said that. Right? Instead of, poo-pooing it or not even recognizing it, the more we recognize how women can be strong and bold and aggressive, the more we can recognize and accept and embrace that men can also be soft and kind and gentle. That's the world that I want to live in.
Amazing, Jill. And I wanted to touch, as a coach, there's this very fine line that exists between being a yes man, right? Always kind of saying, yes, you're right. Just
a yes person, yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of stroke the ego, right, of your mentee, or to be direct and kind of harsh at times. So how do you balance this?
Well, it's interesting because we talked about this off camera, but the biggest thing that I do, and I set the intention from the very beginning. So from the very beginning, in a mentorship relationship, a business relationship, I literally say, I'm always going to be honest with you. Now, in my honesty, how blunt or straight to the point can I be with you between 1 and 10? 1 meaning I'm just whispering, 10 meaning I'm bringing it down. And a lot of people say, Jill, you can be a 12 with me. I'm like, honey, you couldn't handle my 7. So we come to a negotiation, because life is about negotiations. So when we come to this negotiation, I've just asked them how blunt I can be. And then literally I write it down, because I always take notes in every meeting I have. I write it down, I circle it, and I said, you said I could be a 9. So are we in agreement with this? When down the road, you're going to want to cry and you're going to want to say I'm being too blunt with you, I'm going to show you that you said I could be a 9 or 10. Yeah. I established that from the very beginning, whether it's male, female, young, old, whoever it is. And that is how I've become such an effective coach, because I set the intention and I set the expectations. Everyone who has a meeting with me, they always must take their own notes, whether I always say, I like to write because it's your interpretation of it and you are summarizing it in your words. And then they send me an email. No matter if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you've got homework. You're going to send me a summary of what we talked about, what stood out to you, and what your actionables are, and when you're going to complete them, period. And I've got a 2 strike you're out policy. People know that. If they fail to do that, I'm not your babysitter. I don't need your money. If you're not going to comply with what I'm asking you to do, then I don't want you in my life, period. And I said that from the very beginning, and people go, holy crap, like you're hard. I'm not, am I harsh? Jill, you have high expectations. I'm like, do I have high expectations? Or do I just have clear expectations? Right? Now think about that. I do. And you know what, when I've asked people, some of my mentees, Jill, you know, like they thought that I had these high expectations. I'm like, let's talk about what those are. Then we went through them. I said, are they high or are they just clear? Because no one else has ever been clear with you.
And that's the kind of coach you want. That's the kind of coach you want, because that just speaks to how you're going to help them kind of find their way through everything. And what does it look like to be coached by Jill? Like,
I just got truth bumps. I love this. Well, it truly is. I do a deep dive in, and I promise you, every single person I've coached, they always say, oh my God, like no one asks these questions, like no one. And so I get really deep, really fast, because I need to understand what's happening in this person's life and personal life. And obviously don't need the nitty gritty, but I need to understand where's their integrity at in their personal life, because guess what? That's going to come into their business life as well. So for me, it's all about everything's confidential, you're mine. And we're going to have that break you down and build you back up kind of mentality, as in, I'm not here to play. I'm here to change your life. And it's going to require you to take action with that. So I'm very, like, as I said before, very accountable. And I say, I hold you accountable because I care. If I didn't care, I'd be like, I'd just be taking your money. However, when I change that dynamic, when I hold you accountable to what you've said you'll do, don't ever tell me you don't have time. Tell me, I chose not to do that this week, Jill. Okay, you've got one more strike then.
Right on. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Everybody in this life needs a trusted critic, you know, because we identify with feedback. So you're that person that goes in there and people, you know what I mean? People cannot be sensitive when they have Jill Sinclair.
Well, but like I said before, it's not necessarily about being sensitive or not being sensitive or me being too bold. Remember, I've already established that at the beginning of a relationship. If someone says 5, then I'm going to talk with them like this, right? Like I understand, I speak to people as they need to hear, not as I need to say it. And there's a huge difference there. So communication skills are very, very different depending on who I'm working with. Now, typically most CEOs have a very bold, brash, you know, personality typically. And so, you know, I am literally usually at level 9, level 10 with them, but there's some people that, you know, are in maybe their seat, maybe managers of human resources or something like that. And I bring it down to a 5 with them. You know, and we talk about how do we do this better? And, you know, how can I help you? How can I support you? And so it's always about, you know, knowing how to communicate with that person, speak to them as they need to hear, not as my ego needs to say it.
I'm all in. I'll do a 10, Jill.
Awesome.
And you know what? That leads me, okay. So how directly is confidence associated with business success? And the follow-up question to that is how to balance confidence and arrogance. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit, please.
I love that question. It's interesting. Some people that come to me and they ask me that very thing about confidence and arrogance. And then, you know, I'll start talking and they'll say, oh my God, I forgot to tell you, I've got a brand new TV show that's coming out with Vincenzo Guzzo. And I'm so excited about that. Wow. Like, wow. Okay. Now let's get back to it. And then they're like, oh my God, Jill, that's amazing. That's wow. And I said, was I arrogant? And they say, no. I said, did I share with such genuine love and care and excitement that you got excited with me? You know, sharing about my goals and my successes, it all depends on how you share who you are, right? When you're talking about ego and confidence. And so for me, I've learned, and it hasn't been really until the last 5 years, to really step into what my genius is. And so for me, as your introduction, to say I change lives, I've owned that. And now I go deeper into how do I change your life? I change your life by giving you confronting love, by giving you confronting concern, by confronting your success blockers that you keep on putting behind the door, right? And so with confidence, it's literally the willingness to try again and again and again. And so for me, it's no longer like I'm confident. I'm just wanting to try, and I don't care what other people think. If I fail, if I don't complete what I said I do, I'm just going to keep on and keep on. And so for me, it's never been about the ego, because I don't see that ever entering the picture, you know. And there's some people for sure that they live in their very that bad ego, because some ego can be good, you know, ego around some things, but the bad ego that places people beneath you and makes other people, consistently feel bad about themselves. Imagine you take your own feelings, but consistently lords it over others. Like, I don't have time for that. And I will never coach someone that's like that, because it's not in my integrity to do that. It's like, your ego showing, bye-bye, Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Jill, I would love to talk about, I can see the book in the right-hand corner a little bit, but let's talk about your book, 𝗖𝗪 𝗖𝗽
Hustler, I know, 𝗖𝗪 𝗖𝗽. I love these words, right? So I wrote this book, and it's my third book that I wrote, and I wrote it when Ryan Serhant was coming to town. I thought, well, I should have a book, a business book, right? So, and my speaker series is called 𝗖𝗪 𝗖𝗽 Speaker Series. I know these tongue twisters, right? Also, 𝗖𝗪 𝗖𝗽 Business Bootcamp. Now, hustler, I've been a hustler since I was a kid. I've grown up in abuse and abandonment. So it was, for me, born alone, die alone. In order for me to get any results in life, I had to be a hustler. I just had to hustle for everything, right? And being a sophisticate means that I take pride in who I am, who I show up as, how I articulate my words, and who I'm being. So as a hustler sophisticate, I say, on the back of the book, it says, you don't need another shelf-help book, to join the legions that are on your shelf. Just read this quickly and get into action. So this is on Amazon, 𝗖𝗪 𝗖𝗽. And like I say, it's all about getting into action, because we can read and read and read, but it doesn't do us any good if we don't put it into action, right? And again, claiming this, how many people told me, oh, Jill, you shouldn't call it that. It's just such a negative connotation, hustler. I'm like, that's your opinion, bye-bye, right? And again, people trying to put their shit onto me. And I'm like, I don't own that. That's not my experience. I'm choosing to have my own experience. And if you don't like that, clearly there is the door, right? So I know that whoever's going to buy the book, they're my people. Right? It's a great, I'm not Little House on the Prairie. So they're going to understand from the very beginning what I'm bringing to them.
For sure. You have your own tribe. And that's how, this show came about, how we gravitated towards you, because we've seen your content.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you definitely create your own tribe with the energy that you have. But yeah, please continue. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, I think I finished, but the whole thing in regards to, 𝗖𝗪 𝗖𝗽, the book, and bringing forward that assertiveness, that aggressiveness, that I will go toe to toe with you. Just step aside if you have a challenge with that, And did you know the last stats I looked at in North America, keynote speakers, it's about hovering between 23 to 27%, and they could have changed, but last time I looked, 23 to 27% female. How wrong is that? When we look at our genders, when we look at female and male identifying people, and then we've got other genders as well, non-binary and whatnot, how is that so poorly represented? Are you kidding me, right? First of all, who's in your audience? If you're going to go door knocking, who's going to answer the door? Promise you, it's probably going to be 85% females. Why don't you have female keynote speakers speaking about that? So I've taken this to heart, and I've just hired a speaker agent, and she is on it. We're both going to work this together, because it's my goal to be the most booked speaker in North America and bring such massive value and change that conversation on the bias discrimination. Like, it's just, and just bring it in a way that we have this just such a beautiful conversation between all genders, to say, let's speak about each other in such a powerful way, and we talk about what our strengths are, what are the traits are, without putting a gender descriptor on it. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's all about let's just start to build one another up, and it has to be a conversation within all of us. So yeah, the speaking, I'm super excited for this year. As COVID is lifting, I'm starting to get booked for more stages, and I could not be any happier. This is amazing, because guess what? I get to change more lives on a massive level at one time. And Absolutely. That just fills me with so much joy, and also honor. Absolute honor to be able to be a speaker and help to change these lives.
Yes. We can't wait to have you speak on one of our events that we're planning here soon. No, talk to us.
And I was just going to say, if you do coaching for people learning how to be a great speaker like yourself, I will take that on too.
Yes, and I do speaker coaching as well. Yeah.
Very cool, Jill.
Quick question before we move to the next segment of our show. Do you have any events or any initiatives that you'd like to share with our audience? Any plans aside from obviously your keynote speaking engagements and your book, your coaching services? Is there any events that you're planning that you want to share?
I'm not doing one with a hazard certificate yet this year. I'm right now in talks with Jim Quick's team, David Meltzer's team, to do I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're huge giants in this in the business coaching industry, and we're looking to put something together possibly September, but it's still in the talks because they're also on that same TV show that I'm on. So this brand new show is going to be coming out on Amazon Prime. It's called Coach, and 𝗖𝗽 David Meltzer, Jim Quick, Vishen, John Assaraf, Forbes Riley, giants in the industry, and Jill Sinclair from Vancouver. So I'm super excited about that. So once that comes out, we want to have a speaking tour after that. We haven't chosen the date or whatnot, but I'm going to be going on a lot of other people's stages right now for their conferences. So my biggest thing right now is book me now while you can, because it's exciting. It's exciting because we gotta get people empowered, and because it's right here, right? We just need to crack that open. We need to get rid of their excuses because those don't serve us at all. And then we really need to get into like, what are the next steps for them, right? And where's the resiliency? Because we've had a pretty shit 2.5 years, right? And now we've got a war. People need to know that, okay, you know, how do we get through this together? And there is a way, and I'm here to help people through that.
Yes, Jill, aside from your confidence and your energy, just another thing that I noticed is also your style. Was your background originally? Did you grow up in the Lower Mainland in British Columbia? Is that because you seem more Paris and New York than Vancouver? So.
Well, you can stop talking about that in 5 minutes. Come on now. I grew up. Well, if you call it that. So my childhood was very abusive. So I left home as soon as I possibly could. I did like a lot of traveling actually in the States. And for me, and I traveled to Asia by myself years and years and years ago. And that was my first book actually that I wrote. And it was crazy. And that was, you know, how you really grow up really fast, because I believe traveling is a huge educator. I just, you know what, I take pride in what I look like. I've got a suit sponsored, Senator Bespoke, and he loves dressing me. As soon as he said, you know, Jill, let's partner up. I love what you bring. I love your authenticity. I love your love for humankind. Let's do some stuff together. I'm like, absolutely.
I think I saw him walking by Vancouver Club last night, coincidentally.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Great. All right. Perfect.
Okay, on to the next segment of our show. Whatever comes top of mind, it's called the 10 Championship Rounds to Financial Freedom. So here we go. Here's the first question, Jill. Who was the most influential person in your life?
My kindergarten teacher.
Okay, nice. Number 2, what is the #1 book you'd recommend?
Hello. I'm so sophisticated. I'm not even kidding. Like, get this. It's a quick read. Like I say, it's something that you just read it fast and get into action, because enough of this reading and educating, just fucking do it. Nice. You know?
Nice. And if you've seen this show, or if you heard this show and you heard about Jill's book, if you message us and let us know, I'll personally purchase the book for you, the Amazon copy of it, I believe. Is there Amazon? Is there a...
Yeah. Amazon, yeah.
Is there a Kindle version of it as well, or is it?
Is there a Kindle version? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
It's speaking. Yes.
I'll purchase the
nice.
Kindle version.
Nice.
Awesome.
I believe it's Kindle. It's Audible.
It's Audible.
So.
Kindle is just I think for sure it's gonna be. If it's on Amazon, there's a Kindle version, so I'll take care of it. Perfect.
I should probably know that.
That's okay. All right. Now, if you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting question, because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through this shit I went through. I know I wouldn't be. You know, would it have been nice to grow up with parents that loved me enough to take care of me? Yeah.
That wasn't really a choice you could make, though.
No, I couldn't make that choice. It's interesting. I think the biggest thing is accepting myself earlier on. Like, I was just so lost going through high school, and so lost, and always looking for something. Like, I was looking for validation. So I just think that's why my kindergarten teacher stood out so much, because she took extra care with me, because somehow she sensed something was wrong, right? And so she just took, and I was living way up in Stewart, which is north in BC, where all the snow is. And so for me, it's always about, could I bring that forward and understand that I am worthy, I am enough, I will get through it. Just earlier on, I mean, my resiliency was there, but I didn't recognize it at the time, you know?
Yeah, and enduring that, now you're here, helping thousands and tens of
Yes.
thousands of people. So
Absolutely.
it was a sacrifice, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Jill, what's the best investment you've ever made?
Investing in myself.
It could be
Are you
anything.
looking for finances?
A lot.
Yes,
Our show is more kind of a real estate investment. It could be about an actual monetary investment or investment in yourself. Whatever you feel like is the best investment you ever made in your life.
Investing.
Well, I have an investment advisor and I let them deal with that. So it's like literally it's numbers are not my, like that's his genius. And so I let him do that. So for me, it's all about trusting. Trust me to do my job. I'll trust you to do your job. And I'm a very big proponent of that. Like some people who just, they want to do their own investments. Okay, that's kind of sketchy. And then, oh, I want to be my own real estate agent. That's also kind of sketchy, right? I leave it to the professionals because they're educated like yourselves.
No, of course, of course. But I would say that investing in yourself was a big part because you did take some time to invest in yourself and build yourself and reinvent yourself.
Yeah, best investment you can make.
Okay.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Now, what's the worst investment you've ever made, and what lesson did you learn from it?
Again, I don't have a memory for my investments. I'm not.
It doesn't have to be investments. It could be like, for example, we had some people who bought something that they bought some memorabilia, or it doesn't have to be necessarily an investment. Like, is there something you spend money on that you felt like maybe
It wasn't the best investment. You could have took that
Well, it's
money.
interesting. So one of my houses that I bought, it ended up making a car, not a carport, but a garage,
Yes.
like with a 2-car garage we had collector cars at the time with my previous person. And we actually should have made it bigger, and we actually should have made it a carriage house. We should have done something better with it. I was too short thinking on that one. And so it would have been added more value and could have got more money out of it in the after effect, right? So those kind of things, to be more forward thinking. Not just of the moment. So I've changed my mindset considerably since then and go, okay, so what is this going to be in the long term, right? So for anything else I do, like personal relationships, investments with whatever, real estate, what is the long-term effect going to be with this, right? Rather than the short term.
Right on. All right, Jill, how much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
Oh, that's I'm expensive.
Nice.
I'm expensive. We're looking probably, I don't know, in the tens of millions, really, because of what I want to accomplish with that. It's with my Head Start mentoring, it's about, I work mostly with disadvantaged young people and people that come from, and again, it's mostly guys, but people that come from really disadvantaged households, from gangs. They've got nothing. They've got what I had or less growing up. So for me to be able to put considerable amounts of money into those types of programs is where my heart is at. My commitment today equals my freedom tomorrow. My freedom to do more of that kind of stuff. That's why I want to be the most booked speaker in North America. I want to be able to pick and choose. And then with my off time, I'm going to be building this Head Start mentoring for these young people that need us so desperately. Because I got truth bumps again. Like, it's just, this is why I'm on this earth, and I will not stop until I get that. So I want schools built for them. I want mentorship programs built for them. I want housing built for them. So I've got really lofty goals. They're my BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. And why wouldn't I have them?
I love that.
Amazing.
It's incredible. Okay, if you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
Just one?
It can be multiple.
I've been asked that question before. My answer always in the past has been Oprah. I mean, just what she's gone through and her trajectory. But here's the thing: I wouldn't want to have a conversation with her and Oprah is like, Oprah, I've got some great ideas. Let's partner. I want to do this and this and this. How do we maximize that? Because I know I can bring value to her. You know what I'm saying? That just to be able to get in front of her and have that conversation of, like, we both poop. Right? And so no one's better than the other, the janitor, the CEO, we both poop. What value can I bring her that can also help to change the world? And because she's got such a huge voice, that will help me with my mandate of helping young people, right? Because then I've got more eyes on my cause.
Absolutely.
Right on. Okay, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
Doing what I'm doing today.
Nice.
Like literally, I would be literally.
Yeah.
So coaching is magnified with my mentees, excuse me. It's magnified when I'm on stage. It's magnified in my books. So my basis is all about my coaching, my executive coaching. And then everything else flowers from that. And I will never retire. I will never be that person because this is so much fun. It brings me so much joy, and I can't imagine ever not doing this. I just really feel like I'm just beginning. Like I'm literally just beginning. And y'all, do you know I've had 73 jobs in my lifetime so far?
73?
Wow.
73. And that's not applause worthy or cringe worthy. It's just a fact, right? I've had so many experiences, and this is why I'm such a good executive coach, is because I get so many experiences, and I understand how a lot of things work. Do I have all the answers? No, but am I willing to try and I'm willing to find them? Yes. And so for me, again, mentoring, speaking to others, helping them, that's what I'll always be doing.
Amazing. Okay, my favorite question, book smarts or street smarts?
Street smarts.
Street smarts. Okay, nice.
Street fighter right here. Street fighter.
Last question. If you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
I would get my investment advisor to choose. Really, again, I'm going to go back to that. I'm not a specialist. I will never pretend to be. I'm going to get them to do it.
For
Right
sure.
on, okay.
Possibly investing in one of your initiatives, that you're doing for the younger people and what have you. That would be also.
Oh, 100%. Oh, that for sure. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. One of actually the first sponsor, the guy that I followed up with 18 times, because we said yes once, he is also, he wants to be a part of my initiative. He wants me to do all the work, which is fine. And he's got a development in BC that he wants an entire floor dedicated to Head Start mentoring. So
There you
we've
go.
already got a good start with this, right? So board is like, oh my God, like we can change the world. We just need to be willing to put the work in.
That's incredible, Jill. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Me
much for
too.
being our guest today. I just really quickly, can you please let everybody know what's the best way that they can reach you?
Find me on Instagram, Ms. Jill Sinclair, MS Jill Sinclair, and also go to my website, jillsinclair.com, and you can find all about me right there.
Awesome. Really
Amazing,
appreciate you
Jill.
being here today. It added a lot of value to us, and we're certain it will add a lot of value to our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing your energy and everything else. It was so lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the work you're doing, and I'm very blessed to be a part of it.